Hi everybody, I'm Zach and I like movies, and I'm recording a little late tonight, but because I just got done watching September 5. This is a film that comes to us from writer and director Tim Fehlbaum, and it is a movie that is currently streaming on Paramount Plus, and is currently nominated for Best Original Screenplay for this year's Oscars, and it is if you don't know, haven't seen this movie yet or don't know what it's about, it takes place during the 1972 the infamous 1972 Olympic Games in Munich, Germany, where, if you don't know your history, this was where it was the Olympic Games that was designed to be a peaceful event. It was the first Olympic Games held in Germany after since the 1936 Games, which was hosted by Nazi Germany, and they wanted to show a new Germany to the world. One welcoming and peaceful, that isn't a police state, and everything was running pretty smoothly. You had like world records being broken, and then suddenly a Palestinian terrorist organization called Black September took 11 Israeli athletes hostage, and this is an event that is a very big moment in world history, and it has been done and dramatized in other films, chief among them Steven Spielberg's movie Munich, and a great documentary called One Day in September, which goes into great detail about the events here. But what makes September 5 a little more interesting is that it is about the ABC sports team, not the news team. This is the sports team, and they find themselves quite literally just yards away from this world-breaking story, and they wind up providing live coverage of the hostage crisis, and I think that is a fascinating and honestly pretty riveting angle to take on a very famous story, a very famous historical event like this. And honestly, I was really wound up being very impressed by this. It's it's tense, it's riveting, and I think. But I do think there is things to sort of think to maybe give some caveats to, because of the time of the world events that have been going on. I don't begrudge anybody who sort of sees this movie or even hears what it's about, and it's just they've been seeing what's been going on, what Israel's been doing to Gaza for a year, over a year straight and some change, and just say, fuck this, I don't care, I don't want to watch this, free Palestine. And I don't fault anyone for coming to that, and especially given how this movie is, it doesn't try to explain the Israel-Palestine conflict, and I have seen criticisms who do sort of put the sort of poo-poo this movie about trying to remain as apolitical as you can, which is valid critique, always. No movie or hell, even any piece of art can be made in a vacuum. There's always history that comes before and that will come after, and how it's framed and which perspective it takes. But I think asking a movie like this to sort of dig into the conflict that is so much history to it, and I think it's a bit of an unfair ask. At that point, you're just sort of asking the movie to be something completely different rather than taking it for what it is. And it would be, I think a good comparison would be asking United 93, the Paul Greengrass movie about Flight 93. I think it would be asking that movie to dig into the regional history and world history events of American history that led up to the September 11th attacks, and and even like sort of capstone of like look at the war on terror that came after that, which I think is, again, it has those perspectives are valid. They are very, and they're very worth telling, but that's also not really like what it's going for, And I think, again, it's both a fair critique, but at some point it's a bit of an unfair ask. What this movie, and none of this I think is, and especially like due to the recent world events, I totally understand that that's on the forefront of everybody's mind, and I think none of that is really the fault of the filmmakers. I think this movie will sort of wind up being something of a victim of time and circumstance, and I totally understand if any of this falls on deaf ears. But I think if you skip out on this, or even skip out on something like the doc, if you can see it anywhere, the documentary No Other Land, if you're so worn down about the world events and the Israel-Palestine conflict, especially given that Israel has been on the fucking genocidal warpath for a year now. Like, I totally get it, but if you don't just want to like sort of remove yourself from that, but I think what this movie doesn't really it cleverly doesn't try to dig into that conflict or even like give the full history of it, because again, that's not what it's going for. It's really basically this sort of bottle thriller about an unprepared group of professionals that found themselves at this point in history, and sort of like react, and sort of like the moment to moment details of how they react to it and how they react appropriately to it. And this movie, and September 5 is much more interested in journalism and sort of the ethics of covering an event like this, maybe even more than the event itself. But at that same time, it does, and maybe this is a bit of an overread of the situation where, or an overread of history, I should say, where it sort of points to the Munich Olympics hostage crisis as an inflection point of many things happening with technology, with the media, and global politics, terrorism, because this, in terms of the technological aspect, this was one of the first Olympic Games that was like being satellite broadcasted, and of course at the time there's still like questions about like how they cover the events, and like how and again, like there was a lot of question about the global politics. Like I said in my preamble, this was supposed to be basically Germany's sort of a first act of global recompense on in terms of the world stage. Can we move on from the sins of the past, and can Germany sort of show itself as a place people want to welcome into that world, into part of the world again, sort of like terrorism being part of this, and that's sort of like that's sort of like a real like fresh word that's on people's mouths now, and I think in regard, it is intriguing. It is an intriguing scope, intriguing perspective, even if it is something of a limiting scope, because I do think there is, because again, I do like how it is mostly, almost completely shot inside the studio, and there's a little bit of it going outside, but not a whole lot. And I think what makes it so, what really locks you into the process, and what really locks you into this movie, is the process of how they do things. Like, they're pasting captions on a board, or like what we would know as chyrons today. Like, they're pasting captions on a board, and they're like overlaying on top of the overlaying that image of the little captions onto the broadcast footage as they're showing it. And also they were still using film, so they had to figure out a way to run the camera footage back to his lab to have quickly developed so they could like cut it up and edit it, and then like have a guy run back and find a way to like keep that up when they had to change the film reels. And also another key detail of like just the general look and feel of this movie, everything looks like it's covered in cigarette smoke. Everyone is smoking. There's like a haze of smoke in the air everywhere, and I think that that adds a lot of texture to the film. And again, there's a lot of ways. And I honestly like this movie's editing. I'm honestly shocked that this wasn't nominated for its editing at the Oscars, because like this is like clearly better edited than Emilia Perez or Wicked, but at the very least. But this is, my God, like, and I have seen it be getting some editing nominations at like some other Spirit Awards and stuff, but like, yeah, the editing is so cleanly put together. Yeah, and it keeps the pacing up. This is like 95 minutes. It flies by. It's very, it is very, and again, it's very tense. It has this keeps up this simmer again through the process of things, and again, like how they capture the footage and sort of like shape the footage, and how they and it sort of leads into that, and again, it leads back to that sort of like question of journalistic ethics, because like it's not like, because like nowadays we would like have classes about these kind of things, of but like now they're like, again, this is the sports team. It's not the news, not the primary news team. It's a sports team, like asking, sort of asking themselves, like, if like someone gets killed, do we show that? Because as the movie goes on, we find out like, yeah, like the hostages' families are going to be seeing this, but also they later find out in a really chilling moment that the kidnappers themselves are watching their broadcast in the room that they have the hostages in, and it's like, it's like, oh shit, like what do we do? How do we like act accordingly to this? And again, in like the details of like of how they capture that, and again how it's like how they like edit things around. It's like really, there's a great use of the historical footage of not just the broadcast footage, but also like where they have a guy who like voices Peter Jennings, who was actually there. They was like hiding on a balcony across Olympic Village, just like sort of watching everything and then reporting on a phone. That they just kind of like wire jacked up and like had him on speaker in the control room, and then they would cut to Jim McKay, like footage of the actual anchor Jim McKay giving his broadcast, and like sort of like again trying to like do what is authentic, what is authentically the ideal version of like, okay, we're just reporting the news, we're sort of like giving as much objective information as you can, and again in the ideal sense of like what journalism is. And I think like just the process of like watching of like them trying to figure things out, and again and it's engaging. It's never really dull for me, even if it might be a little surface level in terms of like what it is and the perspective it has. But I think it already has given me some things to think about in terms of like again like how do we it's sort of like in how sorry, it is giving me things to think about in how, in terms of like how journalism should respond to tragedies like this. And like I think of today, I think of today, like you basically like actually in Gaza right now, like you have people like Bisan, who is like, she's just like a young girl with a phone and an Instagram account. She's been like reporting daily what's been going on her side of the world, and like reporting of like the atrocities they're in. But and this and like I said before, September 5 kind of points to this moment as like sort of a break, sort of that inflection point where like things, there's sort of like a before and after, you know, we're sort of like entering new space. And I think it is, even if it might seem a little artificial, even if it is sort of poorly timed, I think it does sort of, I think I would say it is a worthwhile experience. It's not just like, again, it's like just a really well-made movie, just on its face. Again, like I love the editing in this. It's so it's electric, and it's kind of hypnotizing. It's kind of hypnotizing how sucked in I got into it. And the casting is really good. You have like Peter Sarsgaard as like related, but like Ben Chaplin plays a producer who was like really like concerned, you know, he's really concerned about like, you know, how we about the emotional investment in it, because he himself is Jewish. There is a Leone Benesch who you might recognize if you saw this movie, The Teacher's Lounge. She's amazing in that. And she plays the one lone German translator for the studio, and she sort of like has to put up a bunch of kind of need to wear like hats of like, you know, she's like one of the few women in the office. She's she's the lone German in the office, and now she's sort of like feels the need to almost represent her country in that sense. But like as far as the casting goes, John Magaro, who's basically as close to the lead as a movie like this can get. He plays Jeff Mason. He's basically like central command in the control room. He's like coordinating everybody. He's like coordinating, like, all right, camera one, hold, camera two, pass, and all that. And John Magaro, he's great. I really like him as an actor. You might have seen him in the in stuff like Past Lives from 2 years ago. He played Arthur. He's wonderful in that. He's kind of one of those, like, you know, face. He's kind of one of those that guy actors, and I think I'm really gonna enjoy seeing him in more things. And I really do think people check this out. Again, it's currently streaming on Paramount Plus. I think it is, and again, I understand if now isn't the time for you. And there's always like, you control what you watch, and I think if you aren't ready for this movie, or you aren't interested in this movie, I understand. But I do think it is worth checking out, and this will inevitably be a good companion piece to Steven Spielberg's Munich, which I really need to rewatch. I've been meaning to watch that again. I have a lot of shots and images from that movie that really just stuck with me, and God, it's so good. And I hear from some other podcasts that I listen to that, like, yeah, that holds up. It sadly holds up way too much. But yeah, I think, very impressed, very intrigued by September 5. I liked it. I think I do fall in the camp of September 5 good, and I think I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 on this, and that'll be it for me. I have to get some sleep. I gotta get yeah, that'll be it for me. I'm Zach. I like movies. I have a lot more movies to watch. I hope you watch movies too. Like, what did you think of September 5? Hope to see you watching movies, and I will see you all next time. You take care of yourselves.